So I'm also presenting my PhD research roadmap, which I'm also presenting into the Profis next week, into doctoral symposium. So it is a bit more structured is on an abstract level. So I will not talk about more specific studies and their results bit. So I will just share overall overview of the research roadmaps and reasons and so on. So yeah, its title is Data-Driven Approach to Optimize Internal Software Quality and Customer Value Delivery. Supervisors are Javier, Daniel, and Eric's. So let me start with quick, simple questions here. It's very critical. Do software organizations actually know what their customer wants or what their customers are willing for? And are they delivering and maintaining what matters the most? Or they are just maintaining their code base based on their internal perspectives only? So in today's very fast-paced and complex software world, these questions are not just fundamentals, but not theoretical, but fundamentals, because many software organizations may want to answer these questions to be more efficient or in terms of resource allocations and value delivery. So despite all the metrics, all the dashboards and process measures they have inside their organization, but still they struggle to bridge the gap between internal priorities in maintaining internal software quality and adding customer values. So let's think about it like, are we focusing on features, what customers use the most, or are we investing our resources, our time, or prioritize our tasks into the things that might not matter to them at all? So this is a challenge we face, or software organizations currently face, and the very gap this research or my research aims to address. So today I will share a broader visions like how we can achieve or how we can address this gap. So the overall context here, if you were there in such conference, then probably you already had seen these pictures. This is the metaphor I want to tell or present. So today's software organizations face mainly two challenges. Customers are so demanding. They want new features and also not satisfied with the values that you deliver to them. And then software systems are getting bigger in terms of size and complexity. So all the assets like source code or test code or maybe configuration and documentation started growing into the complexities. And then in order to adapt to or address those challenges, software organizations are now shifting their development practices and value delivery practices into continuous software development or software engineering. And they want to become data-driven or data-informed to manage this complexity effectively. But see, the reality we must navigate like a fast-paced, complex environment where balancing internal process, internal quality with customer value is more critical than ever. We need to balance. We need to find that. We want to help that guy to balance in that highline rope. Actually, so balancing these two perspectives. What's the current landscape is okay. Despite the shift towards continuous software development practices and data-driven approach, but many organizations still heavily rely on only internal metrics, such as process and product-related metrics. I will come with those metrics later on, and some ad hoc opinions from so-called experts. So this, no matter what, no matter reasons why they rely only on those internal metrics, it could be because of their applicability. Maybe it's easier to measure, easier to find and identify. But they often fail to reflect what customers truly need. If you only rely on those things, some crucial questions may remain unanswered. So that's the one challenges currently. And the next is there is no proper or clear structured way to measure customer value, especially in the context of software engineering, continuously evolving software maintenance. So because of that, there is no way to measure these things. This disconnect the core issues. Is the core issues. How can we ensure the internal efforts the software organization developers put into their software can actually translate into the customer value and then long-term success for any sustainable software. So you can see here, that's a balancing internal software quality with delivering continuous customer value remains a major challenge now. So those challenges bring us to the critical gaps that need to be addressed. For example, there are some gaps or questions remain unanswered, such as, can we map internal improvements into actual customer value enhancements? I mean, this is the key to ensure our efforts lead to meaningful outcomes. I know, I mean, all the internal efforts might not be easier to custom to the customer values, but you should be aware, like, to what extent you should improve your system so that you can maximize your customer value, because there will be some saturation points if you go beyond that one. And if you put a lot of efforts into the quality, it might not yield into the better results that what you want. So another question is whether we are building what customer truly needs, as I mentioned at the beginning, or simply focusing on what we think matter the most, just the perspectives. And finally, are we maintaining and optimizing features customers actually use, or are we prioritizing based on internal preference? I mean, what customer clicks, what customer use, and what developers focus is something that we need to find or fine tune. So I frequently talked about the metrics. This is something that we are. The metrics for us are we talk about the internal and external metrics, and then internal metrics refers to the process and product related metrics, including organizational perspectives and then human factors. So product metrics are bullet or other code quality, and then maybe code size and complexity and so on. DORA metrics can be the process, and then ownership, meaning like contribution alignments, who owns the file and who contribute the code, can be something related to human and organizational factors, things there, and maybe experience, teamwork, and so on. The external metrics are very important now because the literature also lacks a lot of things there. I mean, especially in the external metrics, we can all them as a proxies to measure the customer values. I mean, if you are able to measure external metrics, then you will probably know what is the customer value actually. So maybe we identified some, maybe there are a few more, such as like user telemetry data, including feature or product user data, and customer behavior or satisfactions, retention rate, and including business value delivery, maybe it's the return on investment and so on. So it is very important to know these factors because these factors are context dependent sometimes. Some company prioritize some factors, and maybe some other companies prioritize some other factors. Because customer value is self context dependent. Like, for example, if you, let's say example of bank, they just want their users to go their app, use their app efficiently, quickly, and just go away. I mean, they don't want you to stay forever. But if you take an example of social media apps or Spotify, they want their user time of users more. I mean, they want you to stay forever. So we need to be very much discrete here, depending on the organizational structures, natures, and so on. These metrics also can vary. In order to address the research questions, in order to address those gaps we identified, I formulated the 3 research questions actually. And the first one is related to the customer value and how can you measure it. So given the lack of current understanding of customer values in the context of software maintenance and evolutions, and then how to measure them effectively. So in PhD, the first plan is, I mean, it is something I'm also doing currently. I mean, just started doing literature search and so on, while waiting for collaboration with companies. So it is very essential to assist software organizations like in minimizing waste by determining whether enhancing internet quality impacts customer value, and it is worthwhile for them to allocate resources to create and introduce new feature that customers either aren't prepared to use or do not find valuable. So to help with these problems to the company, we first need to identify or define the customer, what is customer value for them, and what metrics should we measure or do we need to measure. And then second research question is all about integrating data-driven approach to improve internal system guided by external perspectives. Okay, what to maintain now, you can map those insights from external metrics into the internal metrics, and then you will be informed what to prioritize, when to maintain, what to deliver, and so on. So this approach also helps to identify or pinpoints the potential hotspots inside your systems, so that you can better prioritize or focus on those part of your systems. RT3 is all about measuring the effectiveness of developed data-driven approach, like how effectiveness they are to balance these two perspectives. So in order to address these research questions, we have developed a structured roadmap here. I mean, very quickly, I'll talk about it. And the first step focuses on understanding the current challenges and also understanding customer values. And what it is and how it can be measured. Then next we explore how internal and external metrics can be integrated to achieve balance between quality and then value delivery. Finally, we will assess the effectiveness of data-driven approach in raising this gap. So with the help of internal and external metrics there. So it's just to provide a clear pathway of aligning software practices and value delivery. So of course, research methods are also important, and we intend to collaborate with, not intend, actually, we are collaborating with companies now to address these challenges. And then also plan to conduct multiple case studies, interviews, and I'm doing currently focus is on quantitative studies, so interviews can help to support these insights from the quantitative results. And also, one important thing is data collections will also be tailored to these case study specific requirements, meaning that different studies are different, and also depending on the data availability in the partner companies, we sometimes need to change things there. So yeah, that's the overall plans for RQ1 and RQ2 is mainly literature search, interviews, and case studies. And for RQ3, action research and case studies also. The research vision, it's the core vision. I mean, how we can achieve those promises is so we can, of course, we can measure these internal perspective metrics and external metrics independently. But if you measure them independently, the value or the insights we obtain from those results is not that much fruitful. Meaning, we measure the technical data, then so what? I mean, we measure the user data, then so what? If you cannot integrate them or map them to each other, then they are not so much of values. So in the first step, we identify external metrics. Then they are proxies for customer value. Then we together connect them to the internal metrics there. There are process and product related metrics mostly. Then it will develop an integrated data-driven software systems, helps to with so many qualities there. Proactive and continuous internal improvements, and also optimize software maintenance and assist quality, and so on. So this ultimately enhances the customer value again, and it goes into the loop then finally to help you to help software organizations to develop sustainable software products. So this is the overall research visions and how we can achieve these things. So I also performed some studies. So quickly mentioned results from the early studies. We explore or investigated the relationship between technical data and the lead times, though they are both internal perspectives. And I started this study since the beginning of my PhD, and then I also didn't have these plans in the beginning. However, they are open into the context. First, if we understand the relationship between these internal metrics, then also we can later explore them or link them into the external perspectives there. And surprisingly, we found little to no correlations between reducing technical debt and lead times. In most of the cases, it only ranges from zero. Technical debt can explain only 0% to 41% variation in lead times. In most of the components, it is even less than 30%. So technical debt alone is not the factors that can define or explain the change in lead times. So, there can be some other confounding variables that impacts this relationship directly, such as the size of the changes made, complexity, and so on. Or maybe the contributions and things, teamwork. There you can see, and the relationship is not that much easy. It looks like more in complex in cubic form. So having TD always not bad, maybe in terms of daily process, or can manifest later on in terms of interest, like as an interest. So this finding also emphasized the need to consider other factors and metrics. In addition, this reinforces that the need for a more integrated approach to metrics. Sometimes only measuring internal perspectives doesn't add much values now. So if you can link them to maybe the feature user data or customer value, then it can maybe yield better results there. Yes, I will not talk much about this study. So let's talk about the benefits to the software organizations. From this research, first, it will enable customer-focused development by ensuring the features and deliver align with these customer true value. And then second, it also improves resource efficiency by identifying and addressing pain points proactively that will help to reduce the waste and overheads. Third, it will support better decision making by integrating internal and external metrics for smarter prioritization or for better optimization. Finally, it will enhance both the speed and quality in delivery while fostering sustainable value delivery. Sustainable value creations for long-term sustainable here means it's for both customers and then software development organizations. And these benefits are especially for software organization, and also research also offers significant benefits to the academic and research community. First, the research lacks these integrations currently. There are not much of research going. So it drives the explorations of data-driven methodologies, providing empirical evidence on how metrics integration impacts software developments. Second, it also opened new frontiers, meaning like understanding and exploring these internal and then quality improvements metrics and then customer value perspectives. And also, we believe that since I'm actively doing this research together with the partner companies, it may also encourage stronger collaborations between academia and industry, bridging the gap between research and practical applications. So that's the benefits for research community. And then what I'm currently working on, I'm also working on second studies, which is also internal perspectives. I'm exploring the TDD trends and contribution alignments in monolith and microservice architectures, which is not here. But at the same time, I'm looking for exploring external metrics now, which is mainly related to research, which is one. So any suggestions here? If you are working on these things already, or if you can guide me through. So which metrics are most useful? Or it's very context dependent, of course, but again, first, how do you define the customer values, and then how you integrate them into the internal perspectives again, and which metrics are useful, and then how these metrics can be measured, and so on. These kinds of things there. Okay. Thank you for the times. It's the end of my presentation. So there are some thoughts, but these are from this study, so I don't think so. We need to go there in deeper level.
Okay. Thank you, Buwan. Is there any question from the audience? No?
Yeah.
Of course.
Go ahead.
That's the point of being here, isn't it? No, it was a bold research question one, I would say, for being a PhD student. What is customer value? Because I mean, it's I wouldn't say it's unsolvable, but at least I think you mentioned something. It was context dependent, right? Because it depends on the context of the company where or the organization you measure, right?
There is no complete. It is especially in the context of continuously evolving softwares.
Yeah, but I mean, organizations have different concept. I mean, Trafikverket will have their vision of customer value, or Ericsson has their, or Spotify has their. So I mean, I mean, the research question in a context, it kind of makes sense as a PhD student. But I think as a general research question, I think it's kind of unsolvable. Sorry, but for context, so finding this organization, can we measure customer value for this organization, and then relate those metrics, whatever process they use to measure that, relating to their internal metrics. That kind of, to me, that makes sense as a kind of finite problem, because otherwise it's an infinite problem. Right? There will be infinite numbers of customer values out there in the field. I mean, it's just people are different, or organizations are different also. So I think if you add context dependent there, it would make more, I mean, it would make my life a little bit more, or my life, but I would feel more comfortable reading that research question, just being a fellow PhD student. And because I've thought about it a lot, and it's kind of impossible to come up with one single answer to that. I would say, I don't know how you more senior people think about it, but because if you're
this question before,
I mean, from an economist point of view, it's whatever you pay for the service. Well, okay, that's like I said in the conference, right? BMW drivers are happy with their cars because they pay a lot for it, right? So they're likely to be more happy because they invested a lot of money into that car, right? So that's value for them, versus Kia or whatever.
So maybe.
What are you willing to do to protect it?
But from a context perspective, I think that makes perfect sense, because then you have a concrete example you can measure for this. And like you said also, I mean, some services are meant to be used seldom or as quick as possible, whereas other services are meant to be used as much as possible. So there are different ways of measuring different things.
We already
Yeah.
heard about these things. For example, buying systems, their customer just go there, did their task efficiently and quickly.
Checkout process in Amazon. I mean, or the one-click thing in Amazon. That's what value in the 90s when they invented one-click shopping. You click something and they buy it, right? That was simplest checkout process you can imagine, and that was value for them. I don't know if it's for the customer, but it's.
I have a connect. No, please go ahead if you.
No. Okay.
So, if I understand correctly, your focus is mainly on quantitative analysis, data-driven, mainly. So on one side you have internal metrics, which are relatively easy to quantify, like technical data and all that. And on the other side, you want to relate them with a concept which will be difficult to describe in quantitative terms. It's more subjective and there is more ambiguity and all that. So how do you want to use your focus on quantitative when it comes to a highly subjective thing like customer value?
True. I mean, the focus itself is not only the quantitative. We can, of course, do qualitative studies also, first of all, to clarify. And then also those external metrics such as user data or can also be measured in terms of quantitative voice. Maybe we can measure those things like times or something amount of times or something else. But for example, if you talk about the customer satisfactions, then it's not easy to measure in quantitative voice. So depending on those external metrics, which I'm currently exploring, so what we can measure and how we can measure, so we'll maybe change this focus also. So it also might depends on the specific studies. For example, if I try to connect the user data to the internet quality, maybe I can use quantitative studies there. But for example, if I trying to connect customer satisfactions and behavior, satisfactions, then may not be possible to perform strongly like only quantitative studies there. So we'll try to find the context first and then like these methodologies. No?
All right. More questions or
Yeah, I have
I
one,
cannot really see.
or not a question, more like a suggestion.
Yeah.
So I think, like the others already have pointed out, you're reaching maybe not a little too high, but much too high. And it might be an idea to think about if you can come up with something very specific, how can I connect this particular internal thing to this particular external thing in this particular context? And then try to do a case study to see how does this work out. Because one problem is that this often overlooked in these studies is in most of these metric studies, it is assumed that these metrics are in some sense linear, but usually they aren't. Very often you have it like, yes, you have it, and then you have a tipping point and then it goes wild. And if in your relationships you assume that it doesn't go wild, then maybe you will be unable to find that relationship. So you need to know a little bit more on what you have on one side, what you have on the other side, a little bit more the context, and then maybe play around with that a little bit before you reach the higher level question.
Yeah, we're now currently waiting for user data from the company that I'm working together with. So if we can get those data, then maybe we can select another one internal quality perspectives and then map the values there. So we have the context there, then we have the data then. So it's still not sure. We are still waiting for the data and the values. That's why. And I prepared this that progress roadmap a bit quite earlier. So.
Yeah, but I think it's really sensible that you get actual examples that you have cases where it will work or potentially work.
Yeah. So we are waiting for the data at the moment. So.
Good.
Thank you.